Episode 19, The Day I Stopped Being Afraid. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our A to English podcast. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me again. Today's episode is called The Day I Stopped Being Afraid. Fear is a normal part of life. Everyone feels afraid sometimes. We may be afraid of failure. We may be afraid of making mistakes. We may be afraid of speaking in front of other people. We may even be afraid of trying something new. For a long time, I allowed fear to control many of my decisions. I wanted to improve my English, but I was afraid to speak. I wanted to meet new people, but I was afraid of saying something wrong. I wanted to try new opportunities, but I was afraid of failing. Then one day, something happened that changed the way I understood fear. It was a normal Monday morning. I arrived at work early and sat at my desk. I opened my computer and checked my emails. One message immediately caught my attention. It was from my manager. He wanted to speak with me. I walked to his office. "Come in," he said. I sat down. He smiled and said, "We have an important event next week. Several international guests will attend. We need someone to give a short presentation." Then he looked at me. "I want you to do it." For a moment, I thought I had heard him incorrectly. Me? Yes. I became nervous immediately. But I've never given a presentation in English before. "I know," he replied. "That's why I think this is a good opportunity for you." I left his office with many thoughts in my head. Part of me was excited. Another part of me was terrified. Giving a presentation in front of strangers was difficult enough. Giving a presentation in English was even more difficult. That evening, I told my friend Daniel about the opportunity. He smiled. "This is great." I shook my head. "I'm not ready." Daniel looked at me. "How do you know?" "Because I'm afraid." He laughed gently. "Being afraid doesn't mean you aren't ready." I didn't understand. He explained. "You can be afraid and still do something. You don't need to wait until fear disappears." His words made me think. Maybe I had been waiting for the wrong thing. I had been waiting to feel confident before taking action. But perhaps confidence comes after action. The next morning, I started preparing. I wrote the presentation carefully. I chose simple words. I practiced every sentence. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke aloud. At first, it was terrible. I forgot sentences. I pronounced some words incorrectly. Sometimes I stopped completely. I wanted to give up, but I continued. I recorded my voice on my phone. Then I listened to the recording. I noticed my mistakes. I corrected them. Then I recorded myself again. I repeated this process every evening. After 1 week, I could give the entire presentation without reading from the paper. But I was still nervous. The night before the event, I could not sleep well. I kept thinking about everything that could go wrong. What if I forget my words? What if everyone laughs? What if my English is not good enough? What if I make a serious mistake? At midnight, I finally closed my notebook. I looked at myself in the mirror. Then I said, "I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try." That sentence helped me relax. The next morning, I arrived at the event early. The room was large. There were many chairs. A screen stood at the front. People were walking around and talking. Some guests were speaking English. Hearing their conversations made me nervous again. I sat in the corner and took several deep breaths. Then my manager came to me. "Are you ready?" I smiled. "As ready as I can be." He laughed. "That's enough." Soon, the event began. One speaker after another went to the front. Some people spoke confidently. Others were nervous. But everyone made small mistakes. That surprised me. I realized that even experienced speakers make mistakes. Finally, my name was announced. I stood up. My hands were cold. My heart was beating quickly. I walked to the front of the room. For a moment, I looked at the audience. Then I took a deep breath. "Good morning, everyone." My voice sounded a little nervous, but I continued. My name is Ahmed, and today I'd like to talk about ... The first minute was difficult. The second minute became easier. After 5 minutes, I started to relax. I looked at the audience instead of looking at the floor. I spoke naturally. I even smiled. Then something unexpected happened. I forgot one sentence. For 2 seconds, my mind became completely empty. In the past, I would have panicked, but this time, I stopped. I took a breath. Then I explained the idea using different words. Nobody laughed. Nobody became angry. In fact, several people nodded. I continued speaking. A few minutes later, the presentation ended. The room became quiet for a moment. Then everyone applauded. I smiled. I had done it. Not perfectly, but I had done it. When I returned to my seat, my manager smiled. You were excellent. I laughed. I forgot one sentence. Nobody noticed. I noticed. That's because you are your own biggest critic. His words stayed with me. After the event, one of the international guests came to talk to me. He said, I enjoyed your presentation. Your English was clear. Thank you, I replied. Then he asked, how long have you been learning English? I told him. He smiled. Keep going. You have a lot of potential. Those simple words made me incredibly happy. On my way home that evening, I thought about everything that had happened. I realized something important. Fear had not disappeared. I had simply stopped obeying it. And that was the real change. For many years, I thought brave people were people who never felt afraid. Now I understood that this was not true. Brave people feel fear too. The difference is that they don't allow fear to make their decisions. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote, fear can be a warning, but it should not always be a stop sign. I read the sentence several times. Then I thought about my English journey. When I first started learning English, I was afraid of making mistakes. I thought people would laugh at me. I thought I needed perfect pronunciation before speaking. I thought I needed to know thousands of words before having a conversation. But I had learned that none of these things were true. You don't need perfect English to communicate. You don't need to know every word. You don't need perfect grammar. You simply need the courage to try. The following week, something interesting happened. A new employee joined our team. His name was Michael. He was from another country, and he was learning our language. During lunch, I noticed that he was sitting alone. I walked over and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Ahmed. Nice to meet you. He smiled. Nice to meet you too. We started talking. After a few minutes, he told me that he was nervous about speaking our language. He was afraid of making mistakes. I smiled because I understood exactly how he felt. I told him, don't worry about mistakes. They are part of learning. He laughed. That's easy for you to say. I smiled. I used to feel exactly the same way. Then I told him about my presentation. I explained how nervous I had been. I told him that I had forgotten a sentence in front of everyone. He looked surprised. And you continued. Yes. Why? Because I realized that making one mistake wasn't the end of the world. He smiled. Maybe I should be less afraid to. Yes, I said. Just start with one sentence. That conversation reminded me of something important. Sometimes the best way to overcome fear is to help someone else overcome theirs. When we encourage another person, we also become stronger. After that day, Michael and I practiced languages together. He helped me with some words in his language. I helped him with English. We made many mistakes. We laughed at some of them, but we never stopped practicing. A few months later, Michael gave his first presentation. I was sitting in the audience. I could see that he was nervous. His hands were shaking slightly. He looked at the audience. Then he took a deep breath. He began speaking. His first few sentences were slow, but gradually he became more comfortable. When he finished, everyone applauded. He looked at me and smiled. I smiled back. After the presentation, he came to me. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "You taught me not to be afraid of mistakes." I shook my head. "You did the difficult part. You were the one who stood in front of everyone." He smiled. Maybe we both learned something. He was right. We had both learned that confidence is not something you receive from another person. It is something you build through action. Every time you do something difficult, you become a little stronger. Every time you face a fear, the fear becomes a little smaller. This lesson changed the way I approached my English learning. I stopped waiting for perfect conditions. If I had 10 minutes, I practiced for 10 minutes. If I didn't know a word, I looked it up. If I made a pronunciation mistake, I repeated the word. If I felt nervous speaking with someone, I spoke anyway. I stopped asking, "Am I ready?" Instead, I started asking, "What can I do today to become more ready?" That small change made a huge difference. Today, I still feel nervous sometimes. I still make mistakes. Sometimes I forget words. Sometimes I speak too quickly. Sometimes I say something incorrectly. But I don't feel ashamed anymore. I simply correct myself and continue. Because now I know something that I didn't know before. Progress is more important than perfection. If you are learning English and you are afraid to speak, I want you to remember my story. Don't wait until your English is perfect. Start speaking now. Speak to yourself. Read aloud. Record your voice. Talk to a friend. Join a conversation group. Ask simple questions. Answer simple questions. The first conversation may feel difficult. The second one may feel a little easier. After many conversations, you will notice something. You will begin to speak without thinking about every word. That is how confidence grows. Slowly, naturally, one conversation at a time. Before ending today's episode, I want you to answer a few questions in English. What are you afraid of when you speak English? What would you do if you were not afraid of making mistakes? Have you ever done something difficult even though you were afraid? What is one thing you can do today to become more confident? Take a few minutes and answer these questions aloud. Don't worry if your answers are simple. Simple English is still English. Every sentence you speak is practice. Every mistake is experience. And every experience makes you stronger. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope this story gave you a little more confidence. Remember, you don't have to be fearless. You only need to keep moving forward. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Take action while you are afraid. Don't wait for perfect English. Speak with the English you have today. Don't compare your beginning with someone else's middle. Focus on your own journey. One day, you will look back and realize that the things that once frightened you are now easy. That day will come, but it starts with one small action, one sentence, one conversation, one brave decision. So, if you have been waiting for the perfect time to start, start today. If you have been afraid of making mistakes, make them. If you have been waiting to feel confident, practice first, and confidence will follow. Keep reading. Keep listening, keep speaking, keep learning, and most importantly, never let fear decide the size of your future. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode. Goodbye.